What's going on, guys? Jared here. This is the Run with Tobe podcast. I'm here with Andrew. We are on episode 15. Let's go ahead and get right into it. What's going on, Andrew?
What up? I'm a little bit tired, to be honest with you. I've been up, you know how when you book those 6 o'clock in the morning flights to save $50?
Yeah, you think it's a good idea at the time.
Yeah, and you book the flight and then you realize the day before you got to wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to make the 6 a.m. flight. Yeah, I wish I would have paid that $50. I just got back from a trip from Denver and Boulder, Colorado, visiting some clients out there. One of my favorite parts of the country, was a productive session out there. Nice. Shout out to the Peak Frequency team out in Boulder. Spent a couple of days in a content strategy workshop with them. They're a health and wellness company that releases a bunch of holistic healing products, super high quality stuff, great team, great vision. And yeah, I always love visiting Boulder. For anyone who hasn't been out there, it's a really unique community, kind of this right blend between tech and
nature.
Nature, yeah,
tech
like
and
tech
nature,
and nature, right? Actually, yeah, that's the right way to put it. Yeah,
that's the way I commonly hear it talked about.
But it's a super cool place. Everyone out there is just really nice. Everyone you meet has some sort of interesting background, I swear.
How they got there?
Yeah, how they got there, what they do. We're in a co-working space out there, kind of like we are here. It was a really good trip. So I just got back this morning. Booked it straight to the office, and now here with you recording this thing.
Nice.
So what about you? What's up?
Cool, man. I didn't go anywhere. It's cool. Still hanging out watching the NBA playoffs.
Yep.
As of last night, the Celtics are now in the Eastern Conference Finals. Go Celtics! Even though I don't think they're going to last, more than 5 or 6 games.
You got to get through to LeBron, man.
Yeah, it's definitely been it's been a struggle for most teams, obviously in the East, and because this guy's been to the finals. 12.
So will LeBron ever go to the West, knowing that he may not make the finals if he's not on Golden State?
I hope not. If he does, I hope they restructure the playoff positioning, and I hope they just go with that that whole like college based structure.
Yep.
And fail again on my part for
dude, that's the second
notification.
one, man.
But I have a good reason this time because we're going to actually demo something here. So I needed volume up. So. But yeah, anyway, I hope he doesn't go to the West. I hope he stays in the East because it just gives the East at least a little bit of a little bit of star power, and obviously player power. So
and then Rockets Warriors. In a couple of days,
honestly,
right?
That should be probably the NBA Finals if they did like the top 16 versus Eastern Western Conference. If they did it like a more traditional like the college format.
I was listening to one of the talking heads today, and they were basically saying that if the Rockets don't make it through, it's going to be pretty demoralizing after putting a team like that together.
Yeah.
Try and beat the Warriors. Where do you go next, right?
Their GM sometime this year was like, we put our team together to beat the Warriors, to be in this position to, go up against and beat the Warriors. So
if they get swept, or it's like a 4-1, 4-2.
No, I think it's going to be a good series. I think that one might go 7. I think it might go 7. This is CP3, Chris Paul, for everybody out there that doesn't know who CP3 is, but this is his first trip to the conference finals.
Really?
He's
never
never
been
to the conference. He's never been past the second round.
Holy crap!
So.
I didn't realize.
Yeah,
so I guess he's been with the Clippers for. With the Clippers for
4 or 5
right?
years, something like that.
Right,
but and he was never able to get past the second round.
Yeah, he dropped like 40 something in the last. Was it?
It was. I think it was close to 40, something like that. Yeah, in the last game. Yep. Yeah, they used to call the Clippers. All the Laker fans out there would call the Clippers the best first round champions ever because they could make it out of the first round.
Yeah. Well, now look at the Lakers. Well, although the Lakers will probably be pretty okay. Pretty okay.
Yeah, especially if they try to land LeBron and Paul George. That has basically been what's been keeping part of my attention. What about you, man? And I'll dive into some more stuff that's been really like on my mind attention-wise. But how about you?
So this is actually related to the trip I just took. So I've for anyone out there who's never heard of it, there's a company called Silver Car, and they're a rental car company. And I first heard about them when they kind of came out onto the scene. And basically the idea behind it was they only rent one kind of car, Audi A4s,
right? And
of course they're silver, right? So I'd always, for some reason, I'd always looked at them and then never ended up renting from them because they were a little more expensive than like Hertz or Avis or Budget or any of the typical rental car companies. But I always knew there was like this 20% discount out there for first timers. And for some reason, this time when I went to Denver, I decided to look them up and just see how much it costs to rent. And it was like $49 a day or something like that to rent an A4. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. And then they gave you the 20%, which is $10
for your first time.
Yeah, for your first time, which was, so I was like, why not? Like, cause I think I looked on Kayak or whatever for rental cars, and like the closest one was like $37 a day. That wasn't this tiny little car that if you know, the non-sub compact car was like $37 a day.
Right.
So I decided to go with them, and I was curious to see how their whole like customer experience would be, you know? So I ended up downloading the app, basically like registered through the app, put my insurance information in, put my credit card information in through the app, reserve the car through the app. You know, so they reserve the car for you, tell them when you're flying in. And basically as soon as I landed, I got a text message notification when I, took my phone off airplane mode or whatever. And they're basically like, oh, welcome to Denver. Press 1 to let us know that you're here. Text us 1 to let us know that you're here, and we'll send you some instructions. So I press 1, send them a text, and immediately like a notification comes up on the app that says, once you get off the plane, grab your luggage, go out to like island number 3 outside of door 505 or whatever at the airport.
Scavenger hunt.
Yeah, and there's going to be a green and black shuttle out there waiting for you. And basically it was a shuttle that went to like the shared parking areas, where the long-term parking area off the airport. So sure enough, I get out of the terminal, see the thing there, it's waiting, jump on the shuttle, head out there, get off the shuttle. The guy's waiting there, with a clipboard and a silver card t-shirt or whatever. And he goes, "Hey Andrew, how's it going?" Because they saw my picture, because I think it linked it to my Facebook profile or whatever. Go to the car's right there waiting for me, scan the car with the app, walk around the car to make sure there's no damage. The car unlocks after you scan it, and you just basically, you're in and you go. That's it. And how many times have you gotten there where you're like waiting in line?
Oh yeah, man.
Dude, it was like
rental car stuff.
There's like horrible. 2 people working at the freaking counter.
Right.
They start printing off this rental agreement. The ribbon printers. I'm like, what the hell, man?
The part I hate is when they have to run all the way to parking lot F or wherever the hell the car is, and they have to go bring the car around.
Yep.
And it takes forever for that part.
It's like that's the last thing you want to do. You just waited for your luggage. You just waited to get through security, getting here. You just waited on the damn plane for multiple hours, and now you're waiting again.
Yeah.
And so, this was just a seamless experience. I'm a fan.
Do you feel like that's a trend? Like more of the traditional companies are going to start taking.
I don't see why they don't start doing that.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be such a. I mean, that's obviously their angle is like, we're going to put you in a really cool car for a cheaper price.
Yep.
But even if like Hertz or Enterprise did that with their regular fleet,
see why they
would be better, right?
Yeah, I don't see why they don't. And actually, the drop off experience was even better. Like literally, you pull in, you drop off. You leave the keys in the car.
You don't have to sign anything, right?
You don't have to sign anything, and you're done. You walk out, and then sure enough, like once, like maybe 10 minutes when I was on the shuttle going back, I get a receipt in my email.
Nice.
So
that's cool, man.
It was, it was a first time using it. Honestly, I don't think I would use it if it was significantly more money than one of the other rental car companies. Like if it was like $70 or $80 a day, I probably would pass. But if it stays around $50 a day,
I can only see that getting cheaper just because everything else is going to compete with it. So
no, and you're right though. It'd be stupid of these other rental car companies. It's just you got to figure out how to make the app work with your. That's it. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's probably more complicated things.
It's just they got to take that same model and just apply it to their current fleet of cars.
But it takes forever to turn an aircraft carrier, right?
To turn that wheel in a giant corporation. Yeah.
So you said you had a few other things to talk about.
What else is going on? Our
on?
Topic today, and everybody that may have listened to the last podcast, we kind of tailed off at the end. We talked about social media bots, social media automation, marketing automation, things like that. But the tail end of the conversation went into some AI things, and which that we're gonna pick up there with AI and influencers and things like that. We're gonna kind of pick up and go a little bit deeper into that because that it was a really interesting conversation we were getting into, but ran out of time. So today, the thing that really caught my attention this week was Google had their annual I/O conference, which is their developers conference.
Yep.
Facebook had theirs a couple weeks ago. Google had theirs this week, and it's called Google I/O. So they launched in the first day. They usually focus on like software based type stuff.
Okay.
So they focused heavily on like all their new software things, and there's like this giant list of stuff that they went over that you can definitely read about out there online, and we'll link up some of that in the show notes. But the things that really caught my attention, and it kind of has to do with I guess the thing that's been catching my attention the last year, which is voice. Digital assistants, we've talked about it a couple of times on the podcast, things like Amazon Alexa, Siri, and Google Home. And their developments in those specifically are really what I was really interested in during Google I/O. And I know we're probably late to the game announcing this. People have been like flooding the internet since day one that when they launched some of this stuff. But one of the big things that they're doing is if you've ever used Google Home, the voice is actually pretty good. It's not, it's better than Siri or Alexa. It doesn't sound as robotic. It's a little bit more natural. So they've been working on like the linguistic features of that to make it more natural, but they've really upped the game this year, and they're going to release 5 new even more realistic voices, including John Legend as one of the voices. So that's kind of crazy. I'm not quite sure how they're going to, obviously he can't say everything that anybody's ever going to ask or have an answer. So I'm assuming they're going to do a lot of AI and machine learning to map his voice to build
and
something synthetic.
What it sounds like for what they didn't record.
Yep. And then figure out how to build those frequencies. So that's going to be really interesting.
Cool.
I don't know how I feel about, John Legend singing to my wife. If she asks Google Home something.
A little insecure there, buddy?
No. Actually, I'm not going to lie. I can't wait to hear it myself. Like, John, sing me a song. Sing me happy birthday. So it's going to be interesting. They've stepped up their game with influencer marketing. They've been on a kick the last 2-3 months where all their commercials that are being featured on TV and different platforms have all been celebrity focused. Yep. Kevin Durant has one. John Legend has one. There's a couple others, and we can definitely link those in the show notes. But they're really heavily focused on influencer marketing to push Google Assistant.
That's actually a really interesting angle to push a piece of technology
through pop culture, basically.
Yeah, for sure. And KD or Kevin Durant, like, I've read a lot of articles about him now being in the Bay. Right. I think he's really interested in tech. And
and he's got a bunch of startups.
Yeah,
I think he has an investment firm. With his partner.
Yep. So I guess that would be
a venture capital firm.
A natural step, I guess. For him to push this kind of stuff using his celebrity. I guess,
partner with the biggest company, biggest tech company in the world, Google. So that was one thing. The other thing. This, and we're actually going to demo this right now because I feel that we need to share this and we need to listen to it live. They demoed this new feature that's going to be called Duplex. Mm-hmm. It's part of Google Assistant. In a nutshell, you can ask Google Assistant to do something, book an appointment, make a reservation, things like that as of right now. And this feature is not going to be released for a couple of years. They've got a lot of work, but they wanted to just kind of show it off. But you can book, let's say you want to book an appointment to get your haircut or, get your tires changed or whatever. You just tell Google Assistant, hey, Google, sorry if I just launched everybody's Google out there, but you say, hey, Google, I need to book an appointment at Costco to get my tires changed. Google in the background will then call Costco and have a one-on-one conversation with somebody there to book the appointment. And it's seamless.
True digital assistant.
True digital assistant. Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this right now. And I want to hear your reaction because I think you may have heard this, but I don't know if you've heard it all the way through. And it's mind-blowing. And then we got to talk about like the good and the bad of like what's coming down the pipe with things like this.
So how can I help you?
Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd.
Sure, give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, what time are you looking for around?
At 12 p.m.
We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15.
Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.?
Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for?
Just a woman's haircut for now.
Okay, we have a 10 o'clock.
10 a.m. is fine.
Okay, what's her first name?
The first name is Lisa.
Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Great. Have a great day. Bye.
Okay, so what you just heard was a one-on-one interaction with a human on one end and an AI machine-learned robot on the other end.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
It's nuts, right?
So the first thing that jumps out at me is there's, well, two things. I guess number one is the quality of the voice.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, it's no longer like your car navigation system or whatever, right? And then two is obviously the logic.
Right. It was problem solving.
Yeah, right.
It couldn't get the original appointment. It was given a choice, and then it made a decision.
It fixed the problem.
Yeah.
Or the natural language addressed the right problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So the internet's going crazy right now over this, right? Because there's the good, the bad. The good is like, this is amazing. We're taking this leap in technology. AI and machine learning are going to make things better. Maybe that's somebody who can't speak can now, have a voice, things like that. But the other side of that is like, how many people are not going to want to pick up the phone?
Yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned that because I was, Twitter is probably where I consume most of my content or information. And I follow a lot of tech people on Twitter. And I just kept seeing these like tweets about, is it Duplex?
It's Duplex. Yep.
So about, now what happens if it has an integration with Open Table or whatever, right? Then you're going to have all these people trying to call or use, call restaurants or whatever. Sorry, leave Open Table out of this, but let's say they use this to like prank call restaurants. No one's going to pick up the damn phone anymore. But I think it's like, so I didn't know what that, I didn't get the context behind that because I had no idea what Duplex was. But now after you're showing me that, I get it. It's like the Jerky Boys, like, like prank calling people and shit,
Right.
So it could be used in the hands of irresponsible people really badly. But also, like you said, like that's actually a good application on the good side, which is, what if people have speech impediments or voice problems or whatever.
Yeah, or somebody can't speak the language of the country you're in.
Sure.
Maybe it can translate and,
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
there's definitely a good upside to it. But yeah, the downside again is obviously the prank call thing is like one of
many, that's
but the other thing is like, do you have a right? Like say you're on the other end of that, right? You're at the tire company or the hair salon or whatever. Do you have a right to know that it's not a human calling you?
Yeah.
Does that raises a question, right? Do you think you have a right to know? And if so, how many people are really not going to adapt or adopt this new way if they hear, first thing you hear is ring, 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 ring. Hello. Hi, this is Google Assistant trying to make an appointment. And then it carries on. Like as soon as you hear, hey, this is Google Assistant, you're going to hang up.
Right.
People aren't going to want to deal with that.
So
I mean, again, this is years away, and they've got some stuff to figure out. But and I mean, as we know, they showed this live at the keynote, but it wasn't like an actual machine. He wasn't talking to a machine, and you didn't see. There was no way for them to show it other than like in a keynote like presentation. So
everyone's like, it's not you calling, right?
No,
it's basically not. But like, what about everyone who has an assistant or a receptionist calling for them?
But that's
a human.
It's a human. That's the problem. That's not it's not the problem, but that's the boundary like we're crossing.
So I guess like for me, if you're, as long as that person shows up for the appointment,
then it shouldn't matter.
Who the fuck cares?
Yeah, exactly. True.
But I could see, I don't know. I think the thing that scares me more is like, where do we go from there?
Right.
It's the innocent thing is like booking an appointment to like, what are the nefarious ways that people could be using it? Right. What if the AI gets so good that they can actually copy your voice and make phone calls to your phone book to an ex-girlfriend or some shit, like then we're all fucked, you know? Like,
or I always think of it, I guess I think of the glass half full, so I always think about like emergency situations. Now I can double click my home button.
You're too optimistic, man.
Yeah, I know.
You're too optimistic in humankind, dude. We just had bots take over the fucking election, right?
I know, dude. I know.
But it's crazy though. Like, I mean, I think with all these things, like we kind of touched on the last episode, there's ethics.
Right. Yeah. Google has a responsibility to figure out how to use this the correct way.
It's the whole. Like,
I do find it funny that in this light of Facebook getting destroyed on one end because of data, Google is just like excelling now through this. Like, oh, we have the data, but we're responsible, but we're just going to figure out how to use it more. And Duplex is just the result of collecting, 25 years of data on the internet. That's all it is.
So what do you mean by that?
It's the culmination of that.
It's a culmination of search data that's
search data. Yeah, just all think of all the data points that Google collects, whether it's maps, whether it's, email, whether it's calendar, whether it's, that's the machine learning part, right? It's going through and computing all those pieces cycle after cycle after cycle, figuring out how to respond to a human.
Yeah, what are the patterns?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that threshold that it's, Google definitely has, they're going to have some responsibilities and some things.
Until they have their Russia incident, until they have their Cambridge Analytica incident. And
then we're stuck with Microsoft Explorer.
Yeah, no,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, then we're all screwed, man. But no, honestly, I think all of these things are awesome until something like that happens.
Right. I mean, that's everything, right? That's the superhero. It's the superhero effect, right? It's the Spider-Man with great power comes with great responsibility.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely that. But anyway, so I wanted to demo that for you. If you guys have any comments about that, definitely hit us up. Leave us something in either on our show notes page or leave us a comment in the podcast. And we'd love to hear what you guys think of Google Duplex and where kind of Google is heading the next 10, 20 years, because it's definitely on some other stuff. I will say this off the bat, Siri, you're in trouble.
Yeah,
Google
totally.
is definitely
Siri. All Siri is good for me right now is setting a timer or setting
your
a
car,
reminder.
right? To move your car.
Yeah, move my car, dude.
Yeah. I actually don't use it that often, to be honest.
Me neither. I mean, actually, no. I take that back. I do use it like maybe once a day or.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing lately I've used it because I keep accidentally hitting it on the touch strip of my new MacBook Pro, which is really annoying. I'll accidentally graze over the button and then it sets it off. Yeah, it's kind of annoying. And it happens on my AirPods a lot. I double tap on accident or I'm adjusting the AirPod.
Right.
And then, it's really annoying. First world problems. Sorry, guys. All right. So let's take, we'll take one more step into the digital assistant realm. And I just want to announce that us, Tobe Agency, and Run with Tobe are now available as a flash briefing on Alexa. So I'm pretty excited about this. We've been kind of developing it for a little bit, which is a reason why we've kind of changed the format of the podcast so we can fit in other platforms, and Alexa is one of those. So if you guys use Alexa on a weekly basis, daily basis, hit us up. All you got to do is search Run with Tobe and add the skill and then ask what the flash briefing is, and you'll get a little notification from Tobe Agency. And
sweet.
You can hear this podcast every week on it. So
yeah, and if anyone actually is out there who uses like the Alexa flash briefing and like your daily schedule, whether it's, you wake up in the morning and use it, like hit us up, because I'm actually curious from a marketing standpoint, like how people use those types of things. It's still very, an open, green or wide open. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
it's open space.
It's open space right now, right? So I'm curious to see how people are actually using it in their day-to-day lives.
Amazon's done a pretty big push recently on opening up how they want people to use it. When you can build skills now and you can actually get paid off of those skills. So it's similar to the App Store back in the day where, first people were building apps, and now then they opened up like advertising and paid purchases. So you can now build a skill. Say you build a game, you can actually add in skill purchases now. So
cool.
So you can actually make some money if you build skills. So yeah, that's definitely out there. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the main meat of the topic, the main meat of today's topic, which kind of tails off of last week's topic. But before we do that, don't forget to rate us, guys, subscribe, and tell a friend. You can find us on social at Run with Tobe. And if you got any questions or you want to just drop us a line and talk about some of the stuff that we talk about here, just hit us up, ask@tobeagency.co. Okay, Andrew, let's go ahead and jump into this main topic. We kind of touched on this last podcast, and it is the social media influencer game.
Yep.
Specifically relating to a couple accounts that were allegedly run by artificial intelligence and their CG characters, so they're like cartoon-esque characters, avatars, if you will. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been doing some research on it because I keep diving down into it. And it's crazy. And I think we kind of left off last time just talking about some of the ethics and like the power of this.
Yep.
But let me go ahead and give you a little recap on this particular account. So the account, the quote unquote girl, her name is Miquela Sosa, and she goes by Lil Miquela, at Lil Miquela. You can follow her on Instagram. She has 1.1 million followers. She is a CGAI Instagram influencer, like we just said. And she's done these crazy large brand deals with Prada, Giphy, Diesel, I think was in there, High Snobiety, and she's a singer on top of that, dude. So
what the
okay, let's just take a step back. So this account was created in like 2016.
Okay.
Is when it first surfaced. And then it was very, very apparent that it was just somebody posting a bunch of digital pictures of a digital character, kind of playing around. But now, fast forward to 2018, and it's a very real thing, and companies are paying this person to be the spokes or front runner for their company to do these large, push these large campaigns. So again, going back into the ethics of this, what is this a right approach, a wrong approach? Like what, like where does it fall in that? Is it gray? Is, where are we with this?
So when you had brought this up to me last week, and then we decided to, build a podcast episode out of it, I actually showed it to my wife, and her mind was blown, because my wife works in the fashion industry, right. And, she was just like, oh my God, like she was like fixated on it. Kind of like you said, you kind of jumped down into the hole, and I thought about it even more, and I was like, this is getting us into some really weird territory, because actually there's a post from her or him or them, or I guess, I don't know what you want to call
that part
them.
in a second, on what's behind it.
But I thought about it, and I was like, so what if like Cinderella or Ariel, the Little Mermaid, right, decided to Prada paid her or something like that to push their brand, and if Disney would ever let that, would that be okay? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think in society it would be okay because
right, because it's a fake character, right. But when you look at this Instagram account, at least when I first saw it, even kind of knowing it wasn't a real person, I thought it was a real person.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, same here. Yep.
And I, so like, first of all, whether they're CG or real or not, an influencer by definition has some sort of influence.
Sure.
It's that person or thing or whatever is capturing people's attention.
Right.
And that's what brands care about. Right. There's,
exactly.
How do you say this? There's already eyeballs on, doesn't care if it's a laptop or a stick figure
shoes or whatever,
right. Man. It can be an inanimate object, right? But I think brands, what they want is they want eyeballs. They want captive, that's what I wanted to say, captive eyeballs,
right.
And for whatever reason, this person has influence over those eyeballs,
Yep.
But it is weird, because for me, I think it's strange when sometimes when the CG gets so good, you don't even really know what you're looking at, if it's real or not. And I think it's a huge problem for a platform, a social media platform like Instagram, for example, where sometimes you don't even know what reality is.
Well, yeah. Right? So again, I went down a pretty deep hole diving into this topic and kind of researching her in general. And first off, I can't, and I will definitely link up, but there's a YouTube account where this guy kind of breaks it down, and he says, how is she any less real than you or I if we've never really interacted? So
for sure,
like we're shooting a video right now, right? And if we've never interacted with the audience on the other side, I mean, what's to say we're real, right? So in that light,
So to counterpoint to that is when I interact with someone, I'm thinking that they have their own thoughts. It's their thoughts.
Right.
They're in control
Sure.
of what they're saying. They're in control of what they're posting. They're in control of standing next to this person. And I think the thing that makes me feel weird is that that person actually isn't in control of their own thoughts.
Got it.
Regardless if it's a shell of a body or a real body.
Right.
Do you know what I
Got
mean?
it. Yep.
Who is the actual person pulling the strings? Think of it like a ventriloquist or whatever, right? But a really fucking real ventriloquist.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So to me, that's a good point. But I think the counterpoint to that is,
that's a great counterpoint.
that personality is just, it's controlled by somebody else.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Or it's the portrayal that person wants you to think it is, right?
Sure.
So okay, so that's number one. So then the other part and the other topic that kind of came up that was really good is she apparently, quote unquote, was in an interview with another YouTuber, and this was sometime last year, a phone interview only, and obviously you could tell it was a girl's voice on the other end, but it was like a highly auto-tuned digital sounding voice. It didn't sound like AI, but it sounded like somebody with a voiceover, almost like the Scream effect. Remember the movie back in the day when they would do the Scream thing? Yeah, something like that, but not scary, more flattering. And she's like, well, the guy would ask, "Are you a real person?" And you're just, digitizing your face or filtering your face because you're embarrassed about your face. Are you just hiding behind something else? And she's like, well, what's the difference if I'm putting a filter on me, you're putting a filter on you? Who doesn't use a filter on Instagram, right? So it's actually bringing to the surface a lot of like issues that we kind of just pass off on a daily with social media. Things like what you're saying. You think you're interacting with the person behind the person that's showing up on the screen, but who is the real person behind that person, right? And then again, this like, are we when you put a picture up on Instagram? When I put a picture up on Instagram, for the most part, it's my real life, right? But there are people out there that are very, very
curated life,
right? And it's that Instagram lifestyle that we always talk about: cash phones and Lambos, right?
Yep.
So it's definitely surfacing a lot of social issues that don't get talked about quite a bit until these things happen. So I do think, in a way, it's a good thing. It's kind of cleansing part of the internet, But let's go ahead so let me get into kind of like what's been brought into the surface over the last couple of weeks. So there's been all these conspiracy theories about her. Is she a digital pop star backed by a record label because she's a singer, like I said, which in Japan, there's been a few digital pop stars that show up as holograms, the gorillas here in the States, so that's been a thing.
Right.
So that's definitely, obviously Tupac came back to life at Coachella like a couple of years ago, right? So we've definitely seen things like that. Is it a political experiment? Like just to see if and the reason why I say political is there is another avatar that supposedly hacked her account, and the avatar that hacked her account was a pro-Trump supporter, and Miquela is very pro
more liberal.
More liberal. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. More liberal. She's, she's trying to raise awareness for Black Lives Matter, things like that.
Yep.
So she's doing very aggressive liberal acts to push her account. So is it a political experiment? Was it created by Prada and these other brands to promote the brand? Or is, the simple thing is she just a real person where she's just replacing her face and they just caught fire? So these are all the conspiracy theories, right? But the truth actually came out, and the entire thing with her account being hacked, and there's, I believe, four characters total. So there's her, three. I think it's three. Anyway, it's 3 or 4 characters. It's her and like the other pro-Trump girl, and then this guy, and then I think one other maybe. But it's all been fabricated by this company called Brud. BRUD, and they are actually a AI company that was founded, I think, a couple of years ago, around 2016 when this account popped up, and they specialize in AI and robotics, and it's led by this guy named Trevor Oh, sorry if I messed this up, buddy. Trevor McFedries, I think. McFedries. And he basically started this company. And he got venture capital, man.
Oh, wow. I didn't
it's
know
like
that.
A legit tech company.
That's crazy.
TechCrunch estimates that this company is worth raised in their last round around $6 million. So it's like a legit thing. And they posted like a public statement, kind of coming out, telling people what the deal was, saying that basically, we have these views on society. This was just kind of like a little experiment, and then it kind of took off from there. But it's raised some real awareness for some nonprofits. It's actually raised real dollars and has given to charity. I don't know what they do with all their money from like Prada and all these other brand deals that they do. But the whole thing has been this like manufactured social influence. And one investor actually quoted saying that Brud knew that this storyline would kind of get stale at some point using just Miquela. So they kind of introduced these new characters to create conflict, similar to how the Kardashians have. And
dude, it's all fucking social engineering.
It's all social engineering. Yeah. And I mean, dude, it's like I'm going to post all the articles that I've been reading, and you can kind of go down the wormhole. There's not one article that kind of sums everything up. There's like a bunch of pieces you put together, but, I guess my questions are, and we're kind of running out of time. We actually went a little overtime, but, like how dangerous is this? I mean, obviously there's some good, like we talked about earlier, there's some good stuff that you can do with this to create awareness, bring things to light that are, a little dark and you don't want to bring to light. But on the other hand, like influence is real, man. Like people are influenced by things that they see and read. I mean, it's that old saying, don't believe everything you read in the newspaper. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Like how dangerous is this?
Yeah. I mean, like the thought that kind of comes to my mind initially is the whole like line between reality and what is reality anymore.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because before you'd be like, this person is a fake person.
Right.
But when you get over 1 million people
it's
to follow them,
fake.
and you get some of the world's biggest brands to actually pay them money, it's no longer fake.
Right.
It's no longer just a CG character in a movie or whatever. And then the Avengers just came out, and I mean, even that, that when you watch movies like that, it really truly blurs the line. Like what's real in this world anymore? Right. You look at Wakanda or whatever, right? And it's like you're in Africa, but you're not in Africa.
Right.
And I think this is almost taking that concept, like that CG in a movie, and putting it in real life. And I think just like coming back to our previous discussion about what we just talked about with, with like great responsibility and all this kind of stuff with AI, it's going to be really interesting to see how people take advantage of this for good and for, I guess, evil. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And clearly they have figured out some sort of way. There's an algorithm or there's a formula to building influence, right? You support this cause, you like this music, you pick these types of Instagram pictures, and if you actually look at this account and pull up there's pictures of her, Lil Miquela, like standing next to real people.
Yeah. They've done a great job staging it.
Yeah, I mean, you come from this world, and knowing how much time it takes to create something like that. But to me, it scares me when, I guess maybe I'm the opposite of you in the sense that I don't see the good. There's obviously good that can come out of this. Like, for example, raising money for a cause or whatever the case is. But I just know that there's going to be nefarious people out there that are going to find a way to really F people's heads,
Right.
And I think, the whole Facebook thing, like echo chambers and, confirmation and just, selection bias and all this other stuff, like it's just going to exacerbate all that stuff even more. And I always, and I'm not sure if this is quite related to it, but I almost thought like, the future of social media to me is about micro niched networks, like places where you can go where it's like, this is for people who love yoga and love that lifestyle.
It's all about where you can be accepted.
Exactly. Right. So you band, there's even more of this tribalism that sort of happens. And there's this book out there called Tribe or Tribes or something like that I've really been meaning to read, and I've heard about many people talking about it, but I'm not so sure if getting together in tribes like that is the best thing, because you're supposed to like be able to just like dialogue and discourse with people who have different viewpoints or different attitudes about things you do. The more that we band together, and we're getting to, I guess, some pretty deep shit right now, but I'm a little bit scared. You know what I mean? Yeah. I just feel like we're going to naturally gravitate towards what we like and who we associate ourselves with, which potentially closes us off more. You know, we always talk about, like maybe liberals are more open-minded or whatever, but are they really more open-minded?
Right.
Like, are they, because just by the sheer fact that they may have an assumption about a conservative person who's from the South or whatever, like, we're naturally going to grab, and living in a state like California, like we do, we hang out with a lot of more liberal people, right? And it scares me, man. It does scare me. And maybe I'm not even thinking about the good that can come from it, but I just see like,
you just sound old.
I guess so, dude.
I'm just kidding.
Like old dad, right? But no, I think it will be interesting to see how it's used. And I do think and as much as we are involved in social media, there is a downside to social media as well, right?
Yeah,
and
for sure, there is, man.
We have a sickness. There's a sickness out there with some people who are just addicted to it, and it causes anxiety. It causes all these certain things for certain people who just can't handle it. But again, maybe
moderation, just like anything else.
Yeah, exactly. But I think again, at the sake of sounding old, it does scare me a little bit. What about you? What are your thoughts on it?
It scares me, but I guess I always try to look at the next step ahead, similar to like what you were saying with Google. What comes after this? And if it is bad, then that means, history does repeat itself. It doesn't mean it's 100% true. But if this ends up doing something bad, something good will come out of it. So I do think on the other end of that tunnel there is some light. But I do think it's not a bad thing to raise some of these issues that people just don't want to talk about.
Why can't we raise them using real people?
Because nobody wants to talk about it. That's why. Because nobody wants to say what's really on their mind. Everybody wants to show face on these platforms, or possibly even in front of you.
That's an interesting angle. Sure, yeah, I buy that.
I just feel nobody people. If it's crazy. To me, this is a huge thing, right? This is a huge world evolutionary type experiment, right? But it's not talked about except for by people like us, tech companies, people who are kind of interested in it. But this is like a real issue. This is an issue. This person or persons creating this account could have some real damaging influence on, the way a politician would, or the way a dictator would, or, whatever. This is like a real thing.
How do you think 100 years from now, 200 years from now, and sociologists and anthropologists,
I think people
goes
are going
back and looks at this time. What would they see it as?
That we were at the beginning of the new version of what the human race is going to be.
Yep.
I think we're at an interesting time. I'm sure every generation says that we're at an interesting time and things are really moving, but we're like really at an interesting time. Like we're about to hit diminishing returns on computer chips, and like our computers can't go as fast as they can. Self-driving cars, we're like really in some shit right now that where people are going to look back. Like I feel like my daughter and my other kids that I have in the future will look back and say, holy shit, like that was crazy. The same way I look back and think, holy shit, prohibition was crazy. Like that was an interesting time period. Holy shit, like people were really dying from the plague, things like that. People were living not past, like 40.
Right.
And I think we're going to look back and be like, we were at the brink of whatever the next evolution of the human
and maybe to leave it on this thought, like, there's always been the thought out there that, how we manifest ourselves, our thoughts, in like the physical human, fingers, toes, skin, muscle, bone, eventually there will not be a human body. You know what I mean?
Oh, interesting.
Like the thoughts or whatever get implanted on a chip, or neurons get expressed in a chip or something like that. And
definitely going to something.
Yeah, but it's not. No, but I hear this shit. Like it's like, and this CG character who is being built and controlled and all this by, multiple people, but what is the next step to that?
Right.
How do you, what's the next form, Right. But
I mean, what's to stop a country from doing that?
Yeah. When you were talking about the whole politics thing, I was like, so what happens if this company comes out, they enter someone into a political race, right? They become a candidate.
And it's an avatar.
And it's so good that it can physically express itself like on stage at a debate. And then just before election night, the person goes, "Oh, by the way, I'm not real."
Right. Oh,
what
man.
the fuck? Mind blown, right?
Dude.
that was the first thing that kind of came to my mind.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, yeah, we'll leave it on that. And my last thought is
by the way, we do marketing too.
That's how close we are getting to the uncanny valley. All right, guys.
Yeah, no shit, right? Exactly.
Yeah. We definitely went a little longer than expected, but I think we needed to get this topic out there. We will link everything up in the show notes, guys. Thank you for sticking with us. Make sure you rate, subscribe, check us out. We are now on YouTube. We have our old podcasts are audio only, but you can check them out on YouTube and listen to it all the way. And then moving forward, we're going to be on video. And check us out on Alexa. All you got to do is ask. We'll see you on the next one.